I want to start off by reading a few verses out of James 2. Verse 17 says, "In the same way, faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead." Verse 22 says, "You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did." And then finally, verse 24, "You see that a person is justified by what he does and not by faith alone." And whenever I read that, I can't help but to think about my freshman year and just how it makes me realize that I was a dead Christian. Verse 17 says, "Faith, if not accompanied by action, is dead." And yes, I had my faith. Yes, I had been a Christian for a really long time and gone to church and, had a relationship with the Lord for, since I was at a young age. But as soon as I came here, my actions did not like perceive that at all. Like looking at me, you wouldn't know that. And that's just a really sad thought to think about, looking back on it. So sure, I considered myself a Christian, but the way I acted did not prove that at all. And the Bible calls us to not only live in the world, but not be of the world. And to be honest with you, I had consumed myself so much with things of this world that I didn't do that. Not only was I living in the world, but I was also living of the world. And nothing made me different than anybody else. And the Lord calls us to, stand up and to be different. I was consuming myself with worldly things, and what I was kind of like playing a game with God. Like, all right, I'll give like this part of myself to you and this part of myself, but I want to keep all of this. And to be honest with you, that's not how Christianity works. Like, it is giving all of yourself to Him. And that's something I'm learning more and more every day. And by me only giving so much of myself to Him, I was a wasted potential. God can only do so much with what you give Him. And I was giving Him like 30%, and that's about it. And I really, in giving only 30%, I was left with such like an empty feeling. Just a feeling of misery. Like, I would wake up and didn't have this fulfillment. I just felt like I was only looking at 1/1000th of what life really had to offer. So recognizing that, I had a choice to make. I could keep living the way I was, living in the world and not devoting myself to the Lord and just indulging in what this world had to offer, not what God had to offer. Or I could make changes and start giving my life to Him and to quit being that wasted potential, but to really give myself to Him and see what He can do with it. And I did. And it has been the most rewarding feeling ever. And so, instead of waking up with just this emptiness, like just this miserable feeling, instead I wake up fulfilled and completed in the love of the Lord. And it has been such an honor, such a blessing. And every day I wake up and it's a new adventure. And it's amazing to see like what God has done and how much He will use you if you're willing to let Him use you. And verse 17 says, "Your faith and actions work together, and that's what makes it complete." Before I decided to let my actions, prove my faith, I'd been putting so many things before the Lord, and I think that's something we all do. So I basically just want to challenge you to realize what it is that you're placing ahead of your relationship with the Lord. And like verse 17 says, faith, if not accompanied by action, is dead. So I just challenge you also to let somebody look at you and your actions and let that speak enough for your faith and just for your actions to complete your faith. So basically, make your faith real.